Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Speed of Trust journey that we're launching within our Global Technology Services team. As you all know, that as a PepsiCo, we have been embarking on this Speed of Trust to empower our leadership and build a cohesive culture across the company. Actually, within our BIS, one of our own, Jaime Montemayor, who is the CIO for our Frito-Lay North America business, has leveraged this framework within his organization and across BIS organization to really build a great culture to drive a improved performance to the business unit. So he's going to talk to us a little bit on his experience, and his team is going to give us a little bit on how they participated and how they saw the value of this framework. So with that, I want to welcome Jaime to speak to us of his experience.
Speed of Trust has been a transformative tool for our team. Initially conceived as a tool to help us address some organizational opportunities, Speed of Trust proved to be more than just a tool. It created numerous opportunities for leadership for our up-and-coming leaders within our team. It also created an environment where people feel part of the solution since they're involved since the beginning to the end of it.
A great example of the Speed of Trust framework and its success here at PepsiCo is the way we did hardware procurement for Frito-Lay North America's supply chain systems. We go through this program every few years, and from the onset, the services leads as well as the development leads on this project decided that this was going to be the best hardware procurement setup and installation that we'd ever done. They got together all the associated architecture, infrastructure, procurement, and development teams and shared this vision with that group. Together, they went through a Speed of Trust training program. Leveraging the principles of Speed of Trust, this group then came up with a trust action plan that helped them realize their vision. Not only did they deliver, install, configure this hardware on time and within budget, but they did all of this without a single escalation to senior leadership at PepsiCo. I find great potential in the possibilities that Speed of Trust opens up here at PepsiCo.
As part of the Speed of Trust Committee in Jaime's organization, there's a few things I've noticed that have really made a difference. The first is just having a common language. So just like inclusion teaches you things like intent versus impact, Speed of Trust teaches you words to use with others like demonstrate respect, show loyalty. It takes some of the passion out of the conversation and lets you be logical, which is nice. The other thing that I've really noticed is it gives people a framework to be able to be very candid with each other. So a few times a year we do surveys to just ask how the organization is doing. And it's your opportunity to say, this is what I trust and what I don't trust and what's holding me back. So we've been able to make very positive changes. So that's how Speed of Trust has helped us.
The Speed of Trust program for large projects like Project Renew has been just incredible. We've had to get really big teams working that come from different vendors. In Project Renew's case, it was 4 different vendors, the business, BIS, and lots of backline teams. And the ability to move quickly, to trust each other, to know that we were setting good expectations and knowing what each other was going to get done, that was critical. And so this program, with just these really basic things about talking straight and demonstrating respect and confronting reality, helped us make sure we moved quickly and everybody felt like they were part of the same one team, one goal. It was awesome.
Hello everyone, my name is Karen Edwards and I started my Speed of Trust journey in 2010 when Janelle Kennedy and Deborah Walk asked me to join their then team of 2 SPOT ambassadors trying to spread Speed of Trust throughout Jaime Montemayor's organization. Now we've grown to 13 SPOT ambassadors across several different sub-communities dealing from career development to cross-BIS engagement as well as internal org engagement. And we're trying to spread that reality so that it's in use operationally on a day-to-day basis within our organization. What I've seen from the time that we implemented SPOT is really a culture shift where the language and the principles for Speed of Trust have really become a part of our natural fabric. When you hear the words being used and you see the behaviors in play, it really ends up looking like inclusion training, where you hear what difference does a difference make, or let's get better, let's confront reality. Those type of behaviors that seem very obvious to us are really something that can make a big difference in productivity. I saw this when I was on the R7 One-Up project, and learning to use those principles was actually very helpful to help our team maintain morale during very difficult situations. I'm very excited that other organizations are interested in going on the SPOT journey with us, and we as spotters for Jaime's organization are excited to help you do just that and take those principles from just principles in theory to common practice. Good luck on your journey.
Thank you all for joining me in the journey of the Speed of Trust for our Global Technology Services Organization. As I mentioned earlier in our town hall in the first quarter, that we did kick off the Speed of Trust with all of our leadership team in Global Technology Service Organization. The Speed of Trust is a critically powerful tool to really inspire and motivate all of us as a global organization, especially as we are looking to roll out our global operating model, to build the global services, to work with the global teams, and work with the global cultures. And Speed of Trust is one of the critically important tool that we can use and leverage to build all of our strengths for a competitive advantage.